7 Haunting Facts About the Titanic. A Graveyard of Shoes. In 2004, a photograph was captured of a pair of shoes floating on the water floor near the crash site. On the 100th anniversary of the Titanic's sinking, the shot was made public. The shoes were found so close together that they were most likely worn by a victim, whose body has since dissolved. Filmmaker James Cameron has visited the disaster site several times and claims that no human remains have ever been discovered. The only things left behind by the passengers who did not survive are their clothes and belongings, primarily their shoes. There wasn't enough lifeboats. The Titanic was only equipped with 18 lifeboats, each of which could hold 65 passengers, because of the serious safety mistakes and excessive faith in the ship's resilience. This meant that 1,170 passengers could fit in the lifeboats. This is great news, until you realize that there were 3,457 passengers on board the ship. Captain Edward Smith's decision to let lifeboats depart without being completely packed made the situation worse. He allowed a lifeboat that could hold 65 people to go with 27 people on board. A book predicted the Titanic disaster. The Wreck of the Titan, a book by author Morgan Robertson, was published 14 years before to the Titanic disaster in 1898. It described the journey of the Titan, a ship that collides with an iceberg in April and results in a significant loss of life because there aren't enough lifeboats. The name, the month the ship sank, the location of the sinking, and even the ship's equipment, speed, and size. As the Titanic was 269 meters long compared to the Titan's 244 meters, all bear uncanny similarities to the Titanic. Confirmation of the Titanic splitting in two. Of course, this was the first time the Titanic had been seen since the disaster, having ultimately been found in 1985 by a study team headed by Robert Ballard. In fact, it settled a dispute that dated back 73 years on whether the ship had broken in two. Reportedly ignored allegations at the time of the accident were confirmed when the ship was found in two parts. It was thought that the ship had sunk intact until the wreckage was found. A resting bowler hat and half-filled glass. According to those who inspected the wreckage, one of the most frightening elements is seeing artifacts that have undoubtedly been touched by human hands and have remained in the same location as their owner left them. Henry Harper, a first-class passenger, placed his bowler hat in his closet with his coats the night the Titanic sank. What is rather unnerving is that the bowler hat never left the closet in the sinking and now rests surrounded by the rubble of Harper's cabin, precisely as he left it. Another cabin has a water glass and a glass decanter placed on a washstand. The water glass remains in its place in the holder. A key could have saved the Titanic. 95 years after the sinking, an average key was auctioned off in 2007, which does not appear to be particularly interesting. What makes it fascinating is that this key was considered to open the crow's nest locker, which contained the binoculars that may have rescued the Titanic from disaster. Second Officer David Blair, the key's owner, was removed from the crew just before the Titanic set sail, and in his haste, he neglected to pass over the key to his replacement, Charles Lightoller. Because the crow's nest lookouts lacked glasses, they had to rely on their sight to detect any threats. Some claim that if they had binoculars, they could have seen the iceberg sooner. Unfortunately, the key may never be able to solve the complete enigma of the binoculars and Titanic.